All right, I'm gonna do another set of sort of like close crop, short cut hair. We're gonna look at the picture that you got right over here. It's mostly just the same value, meaning that it's not really darker or lighter for most of it. It's sort of like a medium dark, and it's pretty much everywhere. And all we really want to get is we want to try to figure out a way to get that texture in. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start by getting some basic value in for the hair. Again, like for almost every single style of hair I've done so far, I haven't worked on just white paper. All right, so I've decided to use basically a light gray, medium gray, something that's going to make the hair seem a little bit darker than the skin tone, so it doesn't match up. And again, you want to kind of look in your picture. You don't, we're not doing the hair strand by strand exactly perfect. But what we are doing is we're trying to get the basic light and shadow that we see in the picture and a little bit of the texture. And so even though I'm not following the picture precisely on this, I do want to kind of follow the what's actually happening in there. Meaning, like, if I don't see a big difference between like the hairline and the edge over here, I'm not going to create one. And if it looks a little darker in spots, I'll make it a little darker. So now, we can't really see individual strands of hair, but we do see that little bit of texture. So just like I said before, if you had long wavy hair, you would be making long wavy marks. If you had short curly hair, you would make short curly marks. Right now what I'm doing is I'm kind of filling in, making those little kind of circular curly marks. But just like I demoed for you yesterday, I don't want to kind of make like a perfect pattern of curls. I kind of want to make them a little bit more random. That way the hair itself doesn't end up looking like a pattern. It doesn't end up looking very cartoony. And if you look in the picture, it is sort of a little, irregular or different. And most of that's going to show up. And in this case, the most important part is that I kind of get a little bit of that on the hairline. I don't want to make the hairline like a perfect black edge outline, because if I do, it's going to end up making you look like a transformer or some sort of like robot or something like that. And we wanted to make it look a little bit more natural. So if you can see right at his hairline, we have like those little baby hairs and just the starts of the actual hair itself. So what you see I'm doing on the hairline is, again, some of those light little circular motions, and I'm not making some parts, exactly the same all the way through. Some are a little lighter, some are a little bit darker, and I'm kind of continuing on through there. So as you can see over that light gray blended area, I'm kind of doing this rougher little like random circle kind of area, and it's just making that whole thing look a little bit more natural. And what I'm doing here is not going to be something ultimately that I blend out. It's not going to be something I go over with the blending stump. That would be the opposite of what I wanted to do, because basically I'd be getting rid of all the little texture that I'm trying to put in right now. And you can see what I'm doing along the edges over here to kind of give it a little bit more natural tone. And this is, again, a really important element to this, is that you've already finished doing the skin tone and the forehead, because those little baby hairs and stuff like that, it's not going to be able to be an easy thing for us to blend around. Again, we have a little bit more of this sort of lighter hair here on the edges, where it sort of turns to the temples where the fade of the haircut starts happening. So where it's lighter, I go a little bit lighter. Where it's a little bit darker, I go a little bit darker. And in all honesty, this is really all we need. When you look at this picture and you look at the whole thing, you're going to know it's hair. You're going to know it's a short crop haircut, cut really low. And, as we get lighter along the sides, you'll see a little bit of the fade. Next one I'm going to do over here was slightly wavier hair. Again, the picture itself might be a little bit blurry. That stuff happens. In this case, what I've decided to draw on this picture is I've decided to draw this larger light curl that you see. This one right here, it really stands out. It really shows, like, I guess, the body and the flow of the hair. And it's pretty distinct. When you look at some of the other things, it's sort of like hard to see where all the little waves are. This one is really sort of stands out. So I drew that one. And you see the side of the face over here. So once again, what I'm going to want to do is, before I lay down all kinds of streaks and shadows and little hairs and things like that, I'm going to want to lay down some value. And especially in this case where this part of the hair is really close to the face and it's really particularly dark, I might go ahead and just add just a little bit more value than I normally do to get this started. So over here by the edge of the face, I'm going to go pretty dark. You see a lot of light streaks in the hair here, and this is one that I'm going to use the eraser on considerably to kind of get those streaks. So I can't really make light streaks with the eraser if it isn't already gray. So you're not going to be you're going to find erasing white paper is not really conducive to making those light marks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of darken all of that up a little bit, knowing that I want to have like a base of gray to work off of. And just like I started all the rest of them, you can see that base is sort of evenly spread out. I'm rushing a little bit. I've done a better job as far as shading things in too. So when you see how streaky mine looks just off the bat, just realize that, I'm going to blend that all out so it's a nice smooth base to work from. And once again, I'm trying to do these rapidly for you, but realize that I expect that for your hair, you're probably going to need like 1 to 2 full periods to do it. So, mattering on the hair, how much hair you have in your picture or not. Even on my photo that I did of my shaved head, that still took me about 15-20 minutes to do that with even no hair on it. So that was a bit of an issue. So here is my basic sort of gray base to work from. And then, again, like we've got curly hair, but we've got curls on curls. So when I start like filling in here, I'm going to try to make the marks that I make go in the same direction as the curls. And in that case, they're not all going exactly in the same direction. They're a little bit all over the place. So I have some going this way, some going that way. So in the same sort of idea is that I'm going to have a variety of these curvy sort of marks. They're all flowing in the same direction, but they are not all honestly exactly going in the same direction. And if you do it too uniform and you do it too precise or exact, what's going to happen is it's just not going to look right. I'm working in this darker area first, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab an eraser. I know I gave you a lot of new pencils, so I'm going to grab a fresh, clean edge on my eraser, and I'm going to come in and look for a couple spots within the picture where I see a couple little lighter sort of curls and reflections. And just like I mentioned yesterday, whenever I do a lighter erased part, I kind of like to put a dark mark near that erasing because it sort of helps that light part stand out a little bit more, gives it a little bit more contrast. I'm going to work my way up over to another section. And I'm going to just start with my curly wavy marks. Again, trying to emulate a little bit of the texture and the sort of chaos of this particular style here, to kind of get the idea that, okay, it is not completely straight hair, but it is still long. And what I did was I just laid some of the darker values that I was going to have in here. Darker streaks it's going to have. I'm going to come back with my eraser. Okay, and I'm going to kind of get that light little kind of like right there. I'm going to erase and then add some darkness right next to it. Not following, I'm not drawing each and every individual hair, but I am following what the picture is showing me as far as like movement and sort of body. And then over here, there's a lot of light little highlights. And the only way to get those highlights is to work on top of a gray area like I've already set up and then erase into it a little bit. So now I'm using my eraser to kind of create some highlights And then right by the highlights, to make them stand out a little bit more, I'm putting some darker little pieces. So it gives me a little opportunity to kind of get a little bit of the body and the wildness of this particular hair. And then again on the outside edge, this is where I can make a couple little light flyaways to kind of give it a little bit more of a realistic look. So, you know, again, it's not a hair-to-hair little copy of each and every little strand of hair. It's not meticulous in the way that I wanted you guys to go about doing the nose or doing the eyeball. It is more just about getting the feel and the flow of what's happening in the hair, no matter what it is, so that we have a little bit of texture, we have a little bit of body, we show a little bit of the light and shadow that's happening in the picture. I'm not inventing the light and shadow. I'm going by what's in the picture, even though I'm just kind of like ad-libbing the hair itself. And, you know, that will be our second demo